Hello, folks. Thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Penny Wright. Many of you come frequently to our Armchair Traveler programs, but we have some of you who haven't been before. We'd like to welcome you. When we heard that Joy and Dan were going to branch out and do something really daring, because, by the way, they take an annual trip to France, not too daring, but I mean, pretty daring. But this year they were going to the Burning Man Festival, so we convinced them to come and talk about it tonight. I'll just tell you one or two things about them. Dan is originally from Florida. Joy is originally from Syosset. They have lived on Long Island for a long time. Dan has been involved in commercial real estate for 30 years, and Joy is a retired school administrator from the Three Village School District. This is assistant principal.
No, assistant superintendent.
Superintendent. If they knew what she had just done, wow. But they've been living 10 years in Quogue, and they are very active in the community, and we are delighted to have them here. Please welcome Joy and Dan Flynn.
So great to see you folks. I'll use this mic. In February, Joy and I were sitting around deciding what part of France we were going to go to. And we've always heard about Burning Man. And we said, do we go lie on the beach in the Riviera, or do we take on the dust storms of the Nevada desert and finally go to Burning Man? And in a weak moment, we said, we're going to Burning Man. So I quickly got on the internet and I rented that. That was going to be our home for 4 days. And then we had to go about getting tickets. And tickets to Burning Man, in spite of the fact there's 70,000 people living out in the desert, they're very hard to get. There's twice as many people try to get them. So we're going to tell you our little story about how we got our tickets and how the trip went. And it was quite a major event in our lives. And we hope we can shed some light on it with our little journey. So I'm going to let Joy have a few thoughts now, how it all was. And you just may know what you want to answer.
We live to tell the tale. That's awesome. And I said, I can endure anything for 4 days. I don't have to eat, I don't have to drink, I don't even have to sleep for 4 days, and I'll still live to tell the tale. So we stayed there only 4 days, but other people stayed there 7 to 8 days. Now, they're the ones you should be impressed about. We're not particularly impressive, only being there 4 days. But we do have some fun things to tell you about. Now, if you're squeamish or don't like a little bit of bare skin, you might want to leave now. Not us, we're staying as we are. But some of the slides, you'll see some skin. And we'll also tell you some statistics, which we found very, very interesting. But there tend to be more men that go there than women. But you'll tend to see that there are more slides of women than there are of men. And I think you'll see why. And it wasn't just because Dan was taking them all. And you'll also find that the good slides are not ours. We didn't bring a good camera, just because you'll see why, also with the dust. But we took most of the pictures with our little iPhones or a little Nikon. The good pictures we took from the internet. So you'll see a few credits here and there. So they're really beautiful shots we can't take any credit for. All right, Dan, let's get started.
Shall we?
Yes.
So arriving in...
So this is Dan, and we had never ever done an RV. I think it was more exciting for me to say, I slept in an RV for 5 days. I mean, we were only at Burning Man sleeping there 4 days, but we did sleep elsewhere in the RV. I used to make fun of people who stayed in RV camps. I mean, I really did. I said, how can people go to the noise and I I'm an RVer now, I have to tell you. I love them. We slept well, we ate well, we showered well. I mean, it was our little temple. So we are official RVs. Then after we picked up the RV, we stayed at a lovely hotel in Salt Lake City. We flew into Salt Lake City on Southwest Airlines, and we arrived in Salt Lake, and Dan got us a nice hotel, Best Western, and it was like we were going to the moon the next day. So it was like, let's really relish this last day in civilization, because we had no idea what was really going to happen to us. So we had a hot tub, and we had a pool, and it was just divine. And so the next day we went and got our RV, and then we went to Walmart. And I never go to Walmart, but we went to Walmart for 3 hours. We shopped because we have to buy provisions that will last us for the entire stay. In Burning Man, you're going to the desert. You're going to the Black Rock Desert. They don't sell you anything, so you have to bring everything with you, and you have to take everything home. So we went to Walmart, spent 3 hours buying every single provision that we could imagine, 5 gallons of water, and all heat and eat food, and it was really, really exciting. And we bought 2 bicycles because we were new. You know, we had been forewarned of things that we had to buy, and bicycles were 2 of them. So we bought our bikes, put them in the back of our RV, and then took off. And this is the Great Salt Lake. So this is our journey, the beginning of our journey. It was a Wednesday afternoon, September 2nd. And this is the Bonneville Salt Flats. That was en route, and as we were just arriving, just leaving Utah, going into Nevada. Yeah. So this is still Bonneville. So this was our trip. I mean, it was an 11-hour trip total from Salt Lake City to the Black Rock Desert. Now, you question me, why didn't you? So, just there. Yeah. So, and then another 11 hours coming home.
Okay, then we have that. Okay.
All right.
All right. And now we arrive. Welcome to Black Rock Desert. One of the hardest things for 70,000 people to get into this festival, you can see, if you come the first day, the wait is up to 12 hours just to get into the place. They take bunches of people and ask you to shut off your car because you may wait 2 or 3 hours to get in. It's the Burning Rock, as you'll see it, the actual festival is the size of San Francisco, the body of the land. Then we move in, and this is the checkpoint. We were checked in by a lovely guy in garter belt, panties, and a lovely bra, and he checked us in, and actually they do a big security check for weapons and so on. He went all through the van, which was a little surprising for us because some of the things you've heard about this wild, crazy place. At this point, they ask you to get out of your vehicle, and they ask you to lay on your back and make angels in the dust, and which we did. And then you walk over to that hanging gong, and you have to hit the gong and say, "I'm no longer a virgin," because you're now a burner as you get here. Okay? This is our ticket, and the ticket says, down at the bottom, it says one gifter. And the whole idea, as Joy mentioned, that you can't buy anything. There is no exchange of food. You can't go to someplace and buy food. Everybody brings stuff, and they have to take home everything. So it lends itself to camps being formed, 50 to 100 people. They come together, they bring food together, they cook together, and it's all about gifting. That's all of humanity that descends on this desert. And it is highly organized, as you can see. The streets, these streets are the time of day. 9 o'clock street, 6 o'clock street. We were at 530 and B. Then the arch streets are A, B, C, D, and E. And then in the open part, that's where all of the incredible art is. So that's the basics. And right in that mouth is the cafe, which all day long and all night are all kinds of singing, philosophical discussions, all kinds of things are going on at that thing. That is a good example of the streets, and we were down one of those streets. You can see tents, you can see RVs. There's a lot of people just in tents all week. And up in the sky there is the beginning of a tremendous dust storm. When we arrived, we were in a serious dust storm. It's really amazing. Everybody goes about their business. So next. And that is the man that's out in the desert. That's a 7-story wooden creature that's been built, and you'll see kind of the frame of it farther on. This is a grand kind of avenue out to it. Okay, Joy, take it away.
So people have asked us, did we know of anyone? You know, did you have people that you were going to meet? And we said, not really. We just decided this on our own. We're not real travelers with others. We tend to like making our own decisions. So anyway, I go to a church here, Christian Science Church in Southampton, and we show these lectures, and one of the lecturers from my church was at Burning Man, which I was shocked. So I called him. I said, are you going to do another lecture? Because one of the key things about Burning Man is that you participate. You're not supposed to go there just to be an observer or a voyeur in some cases. You're expected to participate. It's one of the 10 principles. So I thought, what better way to go and hand out some science and health and, just be a joyful person. I can do that, So I called this lecturer, and he said, no, I'm not going, but there are some people. And so he gave me a name, and I emailed them, and they said, yes, we'd love to have you. We're doing foot washing. And I said, well, that's interesting. And they said this is the 3rd year that they were going to be doing it. They set up this big tent, and they have little buckets, and people come and bring their very, very dusty feet, because most people didn't have RVs as we did. So they have no place to wash. There's really no bath. There are a couple of other places, but so people would come to us, and you're not allowed to leave any trace, like no soapy water can you pour onto the sand. Any dirty water, any gray water, you have to take home. So this crowd brought gallons and gallons of water, and they had to take back all of the dirty water that they brought. So the dirty water, what we did is we started out with white vinegar, and we would explain this to people. Hello, I'm Joy Flynn, and I'm here to wash your feet. And what we first do is we take some white vinegar to cut the alkalinity of the sand, and then I have a little soap, and we wash your feet and give you a little massage, and then we wash with water, and we dry you off, and you're happy. And then if you want to pass it on, you too can stay and wash somebody else's feet if you want to. And many, many people did. After they finished, they felt so good because their feet were really dirty. And so they wanted to do likewise to others. So this was our gift. We did this all Friday morning from 9 to 1:30, and then Saturday morning from 9 to 1:30. And we met so many people. Part of the deal, again, is gifting. So we were doing this for others with no expectation of anything in return, but sometimes they were very happy. And so one fellow brought many of these medallions, and you'll see this is the Burning Man symbol, the logo. And so he gave us one. Another night, we were on one of the art carts, which we'll show you, and somebody gave us this little medallion. So it's not uncommon for you to be we brought watermelons, and so we cut up watermelons, and we're passing it out to people who were getting their feet washed. So they were very, very happy. And then Dan was doing his foot washing as well. And he also, the hardest part of this whole trip was Sunday when everyone was going home, breaking down the camp. we just packed up our little RV and we took off, but other people have to take all of these tents down, and that was probably the most rigorous aspect of the whole trip.
Okay, here we go.
So again, for those of you who don't like skiing, close your eyes. So this, we didn't see this. We didn't take this picture. This was from the internet. But what they do is they have trucks going through all of these avenues and spraying clean water. It's not gray water. Just to keep the dust down. And so some of the folks who haven't had a shower, this is heaven. Now,
what should I pack for Burning Man? We have a friend in Quag who'd been 5 times, and he set up a lunch in which he brought in 2 other close friends who'd been 13 times apiece. And they gave us all kinds of advice on what to take. And very interesting advice. For example, earplugs. They said there is music 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Lots of pretty loud rock music. So that. All kinds of lotion because it's so dry. That was another bit of advice. You're going to see pictures of us in which you have to have goggles for the dust storms. You need masks to protect your breathing. It's quite a thing. It's wonderful, and it's survival, and it's and incredible art, as you'll see. So they gave us lots of tips on things like that. A lot of people have these backpacks full of water with a tube, for those of you who maybe camped. A lot of them are carrying water all day because you're on your bicycle and you go off, way off in the distance. So those are all the kind of tips we had to pack for Burning Man. Also, the fact during the day it can be between 90 and 100, and at night it can be 40. It was surprisingly cold at night. So there's quite a dramatic, and so you had to dress properly. Okay, yeah, Joy, that's a good tip.
it was mentioned that this, people thought that we were going to a music festival or an art festival. And we didn't really know what we sort of knew what we were getting in for, but we couldn't articulate what it really was. But in one of their little brochures, it says, festival? Nope. Burning Man is not a festival. Burning Man is unlike any other gathering. We're an event, a community, a temporary city, a global cultural movement based on the 10 principles. We don't book acts. We don't provide live entertainment. There are no vendors, no corporate sponsorships, and no backstage passes. Black Rock City is created by you, the participants, and you are invited to make Burning Man whatever you want it to be. So enjoy. So this was a very, very individual experience. And if you
Here we have Joy coming out of the RV, kind of dressed like a country girl, and over to
the left one, I was going to church that morning. That was Sunday morning, and it was freezing. It was like 40 degrees, so I had my woolies on. And then that was the afternoon.
And, by the way, we'll talk about the various activities there, but there are, like I said, religious activities as well as, you name it. Pretty much anything goes at Black Rock in a private setting. Yeah, that's Joy's mermaid outfit. Okay, Joy.
Doesn't everyone have a mermaid outfit?
There we are. Okay, back to this little. You have all forms of dress, as you're going to see. You might have a couple guys totally naked ride by on bicycles, and you may have 4 guys dressed like this in a different kind of costume. People dress, you can't imagine the different forms of dress. This form of dress really is paint on their bodies. They are all nude, but and there's some very creative body painting where they paint clothes on people and you don't know the difference. It's just people uninhibited, doing all kinds of things, dressing up. It's like Halloween. This was in the Southampton Press, for those who read the article that we wrote, Wish You Were Here. That's an art piece that they set up, and people all day were coming there to have their picture taken. And just over Joy's shoulder is the man who later will
the reason we did this article is when we first decided to go, I called Joe Shaw, who is the editor of the press, and I said, you know, we're going to Burning Man. I don't know if it would help us to have press credentials, but do you think we could get some credentials? And he said, I don't know. He said, maybe if you want to do something with all the people on the East End who are going to Burning Man, we don't want just a Joy and Dan Flynn article. We want, you know, a lot of people who are going. Can you find us some people? And I said, okay, fine. Well, somebody said, you probably would be worse off if you had press credentials because they're so anti-establishment, not wanting to have any kind of corporation linkage, like, don't even bother. So we didn't. But I was starting to wonder, I kept trying to find somebody who I knew that was going, and I couldn't find anybody. So I said, Dan, they're not going to do an article because we don't know anybody but us who was going. So about 2 weeks before we were going, we got a call from the paper and said, well, why don't you do something? And so we said, okay. And so the article was written by my husband, and he did I think just a beautiful job of summarizing exactly what went on for us. And again, it's such a unique experience for each person. So all of these slides will show you just the different forms of clothing that people were wearing.
You know, the imagination, the creativity is just, the creativity is unbelievable. You're going to see bicycles created. You're going to see these mutant vehicles, they're called, art carts. Just crazy clothes, people having a good time. This five, we bumped into them in the desert. They were all from South America, and they asked for us to take their picture. And they were so delightful, and they were just so thrilled to be a part of the Burning Man event. You're going to get some of the most outlandish clothing again and again. It's really, really cool stuff. People really outdo themselves in this stuff. You'll have 2 or 3 marriages at Burning Man. That's what this couple got married there. And there may be 100 people around them. And again, young people. Yes, this fellow on the left came up to me and said, I want to give you a gift, and he gave me a beautiful piece of quartz that he found in a mountain nearby. This is just one of the exhibits out in the desert, out in this playa it's called. These things take years to make with lots of people. They are tremendous installations. One of the things that amazed me is how they get them there, because this desert is so remote. The closest city is Reno, about 3 hours away. So lots of huge, beautiful artwork like this in the desert. This is that wedding couple, and having a great time. Again, people playing, running in groups, just having a good time. Again, some more of the local folks who were there in all their headgear and costumes.
Now you'll notice that you'll see a fair amount of young folks there. So the tendency is to think they're all about, 12, but they do a census, and they took a random sample of 2,300 people, and they got the age group that 1% of the ages were 0 to 19. So there were very few that were under 19 years of age. Then 31% were 20 to 29 years old, and 37% were 30 to 39. So you had about 68% of the group that were 20 to 40. Then the 40 to 49, the group that Dan and I are in.
What's so funny?
Those were 16%. And then the most sophisticated, most wonderful group were over 50, and they were 15%. And male, female, as I mentioned before, 39% female, 59% male, and 2% fluid. And then I said, virgin. Now these are virgin burners. No, so 34%, that was their first time there. So we were one of the 34%. 66% had been there at least one time before. Number of previous burns, most were, the virgins were 34%. 5% had been there more than 11 times. No, they had a good time. And then on up to the first time, there were 21% who had been there once before. People, of course, asked us, do you think you'd go back? And we would absolutely go back. I mean, everything about it was just an adventure, and we know we would have another adventure. The trouble is we just don't tend to go 2 places in a row. Even in France, we go to a different part of France every time. So, but we'll keep you posted. It certainly wasn't because we didn't have a great time. It was just wonderful. Yeah.
Another costume. More costumes. You look off in the distance. All day, people are just riding around on bicycles on this massive flat surface. Someone asked me about do bicycles do okay on this? It's like a tennis court. It's like a clay tennis court. It is very hard, and it's beautiful to ride bicycles on. And that's really the best mode of transportation. More here is Joy with very ironic, very interesting thing. When we pulled in and we heard about all the noise and everything, this gentleman was in a camp next to us. And it was a camp for deaf people. And the whole time they were having a ball, and they were wearing wild costumes, and they were signing. And they were right next to us. So this is one of the gentlemen that was in that camp. Again, beautiful costumes, all kinds of feathers and so on. Another one with metallic costume. Beautiful mountains in the back.
I asked her if I could take her picture. One thing you have to do is you always always have to ask, do you mind if I take your picture? And they all go, not at all.
Also, when you arrive at Burning Man, you're given several bits of literature. One is all about consent. They are very big on the fact that no means no. Any experience you want to have at Burning Man is fine if you want to do it. And they're really obsessed about that. The brochure talks about that. Someone you may know over on the right that was there, Susan Sarandon. She's on the right in the white outfit. A lot of celebrities kind of sneak in, and it's getting a little bit more like that. But you got some really great costumes.
She's doing this same presentation in California, and she's saying, Joy and Dan Flynn were at Burning Man.
Of course, yes. Some other, again, the creativity, the bicycle over on the right. There were lots of fantastically homemade things there. Again, kids running all over the place all day on bikes. And I shouldn't say kids, all ages. However, the word kids, people are amazed. People are amazed to know that there's a huge camp there called Kidsville. A lot of people bring their whole family, including kids. We saw 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 12-year-olds. So you have adults and families that are part of this. At night, all the bicycles, almost all the bicycles, have these fabulous lights all over them. The whole playa at night just lights up unbelievably. And Joy, you tell about how we got our costumes for...
Are you ready?
Yeah, if we can shut off the lights, Penny, we'll show you. And then we'll tell you about these costumes, which is kind of an interesting story.
No smooching now.
Yeah, right. So we have all these.
Okay, lights.
Okay, let me just get you in the camera here.
What happened? I went to Cornell, and I get this Cornell alumni magazine that I personally never read, but my husband does. So he goes, Joy, look at this. There's an article, and it was the Human Ecology Department, and they were doing this fashion show. They had these pictures of this, maybe this one, and he said, wouldn't this be perfect for Burning Man? Because they were called irradiants, and they're special fiber optic garments that these physicists and the designers at this Unity College department had created for this fashion show. So he contacted the author of the article and asked could we be connected to the kids who had designed them, which they did, and they said, I figured we could just do this over Skype, you know, it's like, look at us and can you give us these costumes? And they said, no, you gotta come up to Cornell. So Friday afternoon, we drive up 5 hours to Cornell, met these 3 folks, one woman who's a physicist, a physics PhD candidate, and another fellow who was also a physics candidate, and the designer. And we fit them, and they said, they're all yours, we have to give them back. And I said, do you know where we're going? And because we told them we were going. I said, do you have any idea what it looks like out there in the dust? He says, I've been on the Sahara Desert, don't you worry about it, it's no problem. So they gave, these are 4 prototypes, 2 of 4 prototypes that they had, and they were trusting us, silly people, with these 2 things. So we wore them every night so we wouldn't lose each other. You know, and it was just amazing. I look around and I always know where Dan was. So do me a favor and please take their business cards as you leave. You don't have to do anything with them. But I promised them we would just tell the world about what they do. And they gave us so many stacks of business cards, I could pay for my bathroom with them. So if you would just take a card, I would feel very, very good about it.
And there's just, we had all kinds of different eyewear, crazy stuff, modern stuff. And that's kind of what you're seeing in all these pictures. Okay, dust storms. They are really something. And everybody just lives with them. Again, the creativity of this. You have all kinds of stuff like that, just unbelievable. A bicycle that looks like a horse, you know, fish. But these people are kind of working their way through a real serious dust storm, and they're just taking it easy. This is one of the art installations. They're really just amazing things. And everybody just drives around like there's no big deal. And you have these whiteouts, but you see all the goggles, you see all the protection. When you put up a tent out there, when you put up a tent, you use rebar. You use iron rebar that you drive in because some of these storms can blow the tents right away. And again, you see this. So that is I in my gear for a dust storm. Now this is
the dust. This is the sand. I mean, it's not like Jones Beach, or it's not like, you know, the beaches that we have here. It's almost like a confectioner's sugar or flour. And so when it gets wet, it really becomes almost like clay. So the bike tires, they would always say that they're wetting down the roads, don't ride over where the water was because your tires are going to be just all gummed up. So it's just so fine. So I still have powder all over my boots, you know. I don't know if I kind of don't want to wash them. You know, it's like my souvenir. And they said the dust storms were the absolute worst that they've been in many, many years. We weren't there on the Friday and Saturday prior to our arrival, but they said it was storming all Friday, all Saturday. And I said, well, I'm sorry for them, but good for us, because what's the chance of having more sandstorms when we get there? Of course, as you saw in the beginning, they were all over the place. And every afternoon about 1 o'clock, not every afternoon, it was Thursday afternoon and Friday afternoon, it would be fine in the morning, calm, sunny, and then those pictures would happen. And then we just thought that was the daily occurrence. But then Saturday and Sunday, that was the end of it. It was just beautiful, clear skies, no wind, no sand. So you just never know. And we also didn't mention that just prior, 1 week prior to our leaving, my financial advisor called me. And he said, you know, blah, 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 you know, bad news about the stock market. And I said, well, by the way, we're going to Burning Man. And he said, did you read about the bugs that the Post did an article about yesterday? I said, excuse me? And he said, there was an infestation of stink bugs and a biting bug. And they showed pictures that were so disgusting. I said, you know, I can handle any dust storm, I can handle any kind of anything, but I can't handle biting bugs. And they just disappeared. There wasn't a trace of a bug when we got there. But there was big headlines that, oh my God, this huge infestation that's never been before and hopefully never again.
So here we are. This is how they built this thing. It's just incredible. And they, while they're building it, they're putting pyrotechnic devices inside it to make the burn spectacular. They have these very sophisticated guys in pyrotechnics. Again, here's the day where, and that's the finished product that on Saturday night we will go and watch an incredible, spectacular thing. Another picture of it, the enormity of it. That just happens to be propane. All of these large vehicles that we'll show you spew out fire from propane tanks, and it's very, very exciting at night when you see all these art parts. This I took because in my alumni magazine at the University of Florida, they always feature people from different places in the world on the Great Wall of China and all other places. So we had that taken, and we will be in my magazine in the fall, so showing the flames of Burning Man. Temple of Promise. Joy, you talk about that.
The Burning Man will be burned on Saturday night, and then the Temple of Promise gets burned on Sunday night. And the difference between the two burnings was amazing. And we'll show you some pictures of the burning of the man. That is spectacular. This is a very solemn place, and it just brought tears to your eyes just going into it. People would come in and write on the wall. This is all wood, and everyone knows that this is going to be burned at the end. And people would write if they recently lost a loved one, or if even they lost a loved one long ago, they still want to write something to them. Pets, there were little homages to pets and friends and loved ones, or even something that you want to get rid of, some emotion. Maybe you're tired of feeling guilty all the time or angry all the time. They would write that on the wall, knowing that it was going to be burned that Sunday night. Yeah. So this would be a place that everyone would come and write.
And here's another view of it.
Yeah. And it was just the focal point, not only with the man, but this also was kind of always out. And this area, as Dan mentioned, is called the playa, beach in Spanish. And this was one of the rangers who I wanted to make friends with him. I asked him if he could let us get up close that night. He said no, they were going to be blocking all of the salt because of the pyrotechnics that were going to be taking place. And when you see it, it's just amazing. This is one of the fellows who was just writing a farewell to somebody. You can see the tribute. It was almost like a 9/11 kind of thing.
Yeah. Here is Kidsville, as I mentioned a little earlier. It's a large encampment, and it's the cutest thing in the world. You see the kids riding around on their bikes with mom and dad. And here's a child out somewhere in the playa playing. They provide children's activities. That's peanut butter and jelly. And the whole week kids could go and make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. They were just shutting it down at that point. Here's some more young kids having a time of their life. Again, another kid. So
I think what people think that this event is so risque that who would even think about bringing children. But we never saw any person under the influence of drugs or alcohol at all. Now, granted, we were not doing things at 4 in the morning. I'm not saying it wasn't going on. It absolutely was going on. But it's not during the day when you're going around town, or even at night when we were on the playa with all of these festivities. There was no evidence of any drunken behavior or anyone out of control. Or it's just an amazingly organized, experience. What happens as you're walking along the playa or riding along the playa, you'll suddenly see a group start. All of a sudden there's a mass of people. Something's going to be going on, usually a burning of some kind. Well, this time it was a flaming piano trebuchet, where they take a catapult and they toss a piano. And I turned to Dan and said, these people don't have enough to do. So that's what they do.
Again, we were just overwhelmed by the art installations, some of the most magnificent things, very creative things, some things with a lot of humor. This thing at night is spectacular. It's neon. It's just beautiful. And some of these, they literally drive them around. This beautiful sculpture here, the close-up, when you get up close to it, the whole body is made out of pennies. It's an incredible piece of artwork. Again, at night, we can't really do it justice as far as the spectacular colors and the motion. And somebody built this, and they burned it down at the end of the week. It's just beautiful, a temple of sorts. Totem of Confessions, and they have beautiful artwork in it. This is quite a thing. You'll see the ironwork is two adults, and inside is the child in them. And at night, you'll see what happens at night. That's what happens, and that's a brilliant, beautiful white, and it's huge. They're all so big.
This is sweet. This is called Love. And they have, again, if you go online, you can just find every single one of these things, and they give you descriptions of each one of the installations. I first thought it was two children and the mom and dad. You know, that this is kind of the in utero almost. But when I read about it, it's called Love, and the man and the woman are back to back, kind of angry at each other. But at night, when their guard is down, they become more childlike and come together. So a lot of these things on the surface, they look, you know, just spectacular, but when you start reading about them, you really learn all sorts of cool stuff. Yeah, that's just another one. I didn't really read too much about them, but that's the same thing.
These things...
She was, again, it's this huge, 48 feet tall. This has been a series. And when I read more about it, it talked about the strength of women and the openness she's standing there. And ultimately, they're talking about violence against women, and that hopefully there'll come a time when both men and women can be open and harmonious, and there doesn't have to be any more violence towards women. And
there she is again. A lot of photo opportunities. Here's another sculpture.
And this is the one that was pink before, the night version of that. You saw just the face. And this is Medusa, one of the first ones you see outside that center before.
Not unusual to see groups performing, all kinds of things. We won't really have a chance tonight to show you this, but this is an incredible list of all the things going on every day, all day. And the activities are everything from swing dancing to some things I can't quite mention. I can tell you after the show that you can do. There's pretty much anything that you could possibly imagine you can do, from making s'mores like you did at camp to other things. Another very lighted up, beautiful sculpture. These are the art carts or mutant vehicles, and they are just amazing. This will be built on a truck chassis, perhaps. Maybe 40 or 50 people can be in them, and at night they're all lighted up, and they cruise around the desert playing wild rock music. And it's this is an art. Joy, you know better on this.
This is a prayer cart where you would write on in that little section. You couldn't list any names. You just say, I pray that, or I hope that, or I wish that, and you say, you know, I wish that my sister will fall in love, or whatever. And so you take a paintbrush. They have little paintbrushes and paints. And whoever wants to gets up and writes a little note to some prayer or some wish that they have for a friend. And Dan managed to find some cute little lady that was there, and that was the owner of the truck. And you just meet so many people. Everyone is there to participate and be loving and kind, and it's just amazing.
Okay. This is really a good representation of the colors, the magnificent creativity at night that you see. That is a mutant vehicle. It drives around. It's obviously a fish. It's got 4 or 5 people on the top. They're much larger ones. They're playing music, and they just cruise around this desert. It's really the motion. A lot of the art is in motion, and that's what's exciting too.
I'm trying to, yeah, here it is. No. We have a motion picture of that, but it didn't work.
This was a gigantic cat built on some automobile. Again, this is built on a truck chassis. These cruise around the desert with people dancing, and this was a giant ship. That's another art card playing music and people, and it reflected you as it went by. This is the star of the show. This is an amazing creation. It shoots propane fire. All of the arms move. It plays incredible music, and it cruises around. It's like something from another planet. And
regrettably, I'm an anti-cracker, unfortunately, and there's more propane being consumed at this place. This uses 200 gallons of propane per night and lights up the fire as far as the eye can see. But it is so spectacular. Those little arms, we have a video, but we weren't able to import it for some reason. But his little arms go up and down. It's just amazing.
That's kind of terrifying. Here we have a giant, and that's just again, an art card. Okay, Saturday Night Burning of the Man. It's just like all of a sudden, about an hour before the burning, just everybody, like the Night of the Living Dead, everybody just starts walking toward the man. A fireworks display that outdoes any I've ever seen is before the burning, and then all of a sudden you see a little spark, and then things start to really catch on fire. You see the smoke, fireworks, and everybody stands, and this is a very exciting time. It's a party atmosphere. Everybody's cheering and watching this happen, as opposed to the next night. And you wait, and it finally tumbles. It crashes to the ground. To get things really started, literally a bomb goes off. It's a combination of dynamite and propane. It's just a huge explosion around this effigy of man. And there it's going. It's starting to fall. Sunday night farewell to the Temple of Promise. That's a whole different atmosphere. Very solemn. People come out. Very little talking. And we've never seen such a large group so quiet for so long. You just stand motionless for about at least a half hour to 45 minutes while you watch this also crumble to the ground. A lot of people ask why burning these things, and there are a number of things you can on the internet. Charlie Rose has done a very good interview of the founder of Burning Man. He founded this on a beach in 1986. A dozen people went and made an 8-foot wooden man and set it on fire. He explains a lot of the philosophy, and you can get that easily on the internet. Go just YouTube Charlie Rose, and you can get a better feel. But it's about the impermanence of life. It's about the cycles of life, and that's sort of what it's all about.
So we were getting ready to leave on Monday morning. Now everyone said the exodus is really the most difficult. So many people who were in tents just took off right after the burning of the temple because they couldn't sleep anywhere. They wanted to be able to just move their camp. They stood in line for like 3 to 4 hours for the exodus Sunday night. We had read that 4 o'clock is the best time to go in the morning. So we got up at 4 to 4, we were all packed, jumped in our RV, got out with no traffic whatsoever. Drove to Winnemucca, stayed overnight there, and then drove out the next day. Then finally, we stayed in an RV camp. I thought for sure that I was going to want a hotel when we got to Salt Lake City, but I was too attached to my RV. So we stayed at a lovely RV camp and took off the next day on Southwest Airlines back to civilization. So, we'd love to have any questions and answers that you might have. You with the intro?
Our son has been to Burning Man twice. Our son has been to Burning Man twice, and will go every year that he possibly can. And you mentioned that no food is available.
Well,
Everyone brings whatever food is going to need, and they also bring something to distribute to friends going by, people going by. One of the young men, one of the men in Mark's group brought ice cream sandwiches in dry ice. And he said, they lasted 4 days.
That's great.
So, they're trying.
That's
They
great.
do sell ice there. That's the one thing they do sell is ice.
How did you two react to being exhilarated for 4 days? How did you decide to retire and leave the sea? And what was it like? How did you react to this? Was it exhausting, or afterwards did you crash for a week, or good?
No, Joy and we didn't, I tell you, I was always amazed that there was a certain subculture that partied all night long. They danced all night long. It was just, I said, how do they do this? They're out all day, they're partying all night long. And a guy about my age who'd been many times said, well, a lot of them are doing drugs. That's how they have the stamina to do it. But Joy and we definitely pace ourselves. So
We say we burn the candle at one end.
yeah. So
We never have any trouble coming
Yeah.
up from big.
So we take good care of ourselves.
Yes.
So who funds the building of the Burning Man each year, then is just?
Well, we pay. You pay 400.
We pay $400 a person times 70,000. That's how they do it. So it's now become a huge not-for-profit. They have to pay in Nevada. They have to pay them X amount to rent the thing. And what's really amazing about that whole area, when it ends, there's a huge group of volunteers, and they want to return it to the exact way it was. They've got tweezers. They're taking stuff out of the ground. The thing that Joy mentioned about all gray water, you have to take it home with you. They have these huge containers taking home any gray water. If you're going to take anything that resembles a bath or a quick sponge bath, you stand in a plastic container, and you got to do something with the water when you're finished. It's the reverence to the environment is just incredible there.
Leave no trace. That's one of the 10 principles. Leave no trace.
You mentioned that it was, let me just get started on how you got your tickets.
Oh, yeah. We have a couple minutes. What they do is you have to first put in your profile. You have to create your profile. So early February, you got to create a profile. Then a week later, you have a 3 or 4 day window that you can register. And at that point, if it's not it's not like as of the second. You have that window of 4 days. And so we told them what we do, our age, and why we want to go, and what we're willing to do, and how we're going to participate and do all these wonderful things. They're thinking of something doing this, maybe will be judging us. And then the big day came, where noon Pacific time and 3 o'clock Eastern Daylight Savings Time. We had to be at the computer with all of our special codes and numbers to click immediately, because if we didn't, we might be one of those 70,005 that didn't get it. So it was a Wednesday night, and again, I had to go to my church board meeting at 5 o'clock, and I'm starting at 3, and it says, okay, you have a half hour before you'll find out, to get your ticket. So at the stroke, I had my phone, and as soon as that, internet, the cellular time came, I clicked the button, so I knew I was clicking it exactly at 3 o'clock. But then it started talking to me, saying, okay, it's going to be 45 minutes before you hear anything. Then it was going to be a half hour. Then it was going to be over 2 hours. And I'm going, oh no, I have to be at this meeting. And I can't take my computer with me because I'll lose internet access and I'll lose all my connection and I won't be able to go. So then I just kept watching, I'm texting Dan because he had a meeting and he couldn't do any of this, so I'm doing this for the two of us. And then it keeps fluctuating. I'm texting him, now it's 45 minutes, no, it's 3 hours, and then suddenly it was 30 minutes. And then it was 12 minutes. But then it would be 25 minutes. And I'm on this emotional roller coaster with the target. And finally it was 10 minutes. And then 9 minutes. And then it was a countdown. And I texted Dan, it's 2 more minutes. And then they suddenly said, you got your tickets. And so we were celebrating. Of course, and I immediately wrote to my friend and said, we got our tickets. And he said, I didn't get my ticket. This is a guy who had originally told me about this, and he wasn't sure if he was going to go, but he got caught somehow, and he didn't do it right. And so he and about several friends who were routinely going didn't get their ticket. But you go, there's always where there's a will. There are always tickets to be sold elsewhere. But I didn't know that at the time.
My son got on, and they were looking at tickets in May for my brother. And they put on Facebook and something, and they got tickets to it.
One of the things is you're not supposed to scalp. That's a no-no also. But what they're recommending and what people do is a whole other story. Any other questions?
So what happens to all the ashes from all the burn things?
You take it with them.
Take them away.
And clean up this. They were cleaning up for months afterwards.
They build them all year. They build those in San Francisco, all over the
They truck
place.
them in
Yeah,
pieces and
yeah, no, they bring them in, which is really amazing, in pieces. So almost all of it, yeah.
How did it all start?
It started in 1986 in San Francisco on a beach. And the gentleman who you can hear a nice long interview with Charlie Rose on YouTube explains that he looked at a buddy of his and said, let's go down to the beach and burn a man. And they built this very primitive 8-foot man, and the mere lighting of it drew a lot of people. And then suddenly there were 35 people there. And they said, I guess people want to see this. And so they had it for a couple more years in California and then moved it out to the desert. And 70,000 people, it's
What are some of the other tenets of
just briefly, one is gifting, one is radical inclusion. You don't exclude anybody. Yeah, a lot of and radical not meaning far out, but just unique. And they're really trying to get you away from your real world. Decommodification, meaning if you have anything that has a label on it, like a corporation, you want to be sure it's covered up. You don't want to have any advertising. Radical self-reliance, you got to take care of yourself. Radical self-expression. So you're free to dance and sing, and you're encouraged to do that. You don't want to go and just sit around. Communal effort. We're all in this together, so we were all helping each other out. Part of the deal. Civic responsibility is huge. You take care of yourself, you take care of others, you respect the laws. There are rangers that are out there to make sure you do, but the expectation is that you're behaving yourself, and you're not doing illegal things. And leaving no trace. And participation, as I mentioned, and immediacy, where you are right in your presence. So you can get these online. There are blogs to talk about these issues, because they're not so simple.
Excuse me. Did you make any friends that you are still in touch with?
Well, Very much so with this particular church group. We had never met them before. There were about 10 folks from Hawaii and California, so we met them. As far as people that we exchange phone numbers and emails, you know, when we meet somebody on an art
Email
park
address.
in New Jersey. And,
Some email addresses, yeah.
but no real friendships yet.
Do they have porta potties around?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, great question. Great. That was one of the most amazing
They're porta potties.
porta potties. You can imagine there are porta potties all over this city of 70,000, and then you have these trucks coming in, servicing them all the time. It's a monument to, again, organization and the pulling this thing off.
Very much for your attention. We'll be glad to
Thank
stay
you.
and answer any questions, but our time is up.
Yep, thank you.
But anyway, I know some people probably have. Thank you, Joy and Dan, this was just spectacular. And maybe you'll see some of these guys at the Burning Man in the future. Just before we end, I wanted to mention that in November, Marianne Calendrill and Catherine Zoka will be coming to talk about a trip to California, sort of a busman's holiday, a literary trip to Northern California. Should be fun. November 23rd, you can see it in the flyer or the newsletter. And in December, Dieter von Lesten will be coming to talk about his trip to Romania, or trips. I'm not sure how many he's taken on December 14th, so pre-Christmas. Anyway, but tonight we had the best time ever, and so we're so grateful to you all for putting all this work into a great presentation. And we're looking for a trip for February and March. So, any of you who may have been shy in the past, who have good pictures and would like to do this,
We'll help you with the PowerPoint.
Be in
We've never
touch.
done one of these before.
it's so much fun for us to hear about your trip. So, thank you again, Joy and Dan.